Tracking the business, why volume matters. Every brokerage tells a story, and that story is written in its transactions. Section 1.3 shifts the focus from structure to activity, emphasizing how a brokerage operates on a day-to-day basis. The Arizona Department of Real Estate, ADRA, does not just look at whether a brokerage is licensed correctly. They analyze how active the brokerage is, what type of transactions are being conducted, and whether those activities align with compliance requirements. This is a critical component of the Broker Audit Declaration, BAD, as transaction volume directly impacts audit risk. Under AAC R428-1103, the designated broker is responsible for the supervision and control of all real estate activity. That responsibility becomes more complex as transaction volume increases. A brokerage closing 10 transactions per year presents a very different supervision challenge than one closing 500. ADRA uses this activity level to determine where potential breakdowns in compliance may exist. Residential versus commercial transaction tracking. Not all transactions are created equal. Residential and commercial real estate activities carry different risks, documentation requirements, and levels of complexity. Residential transactions tend to follow standardized forms, such as the AAR residential resale purchase contract, while commercial transactions often involve custom agreements, extended timelines, and more sophisticated negotiation structures. For example, a brokerage in Gilbert handling primarily residential resale transactions may rely heavily on standardized disclosures like the SPDS and buyer advisory. In contrast, a brokerage operating in downtown Phoenix working on commercial deals may deal with leases, tenant improvements, CAM charges, and investment analysis. These differences matter because ADRA expects the broker to understand and supervise each type of transaction appropriately. A failure to properly supervise commercial transactions, especially when agents are inexperienced, can expose the broker to liability under ARS paragraph 32-2153 for negligence or incompetence. This ties directly back to earlier sections. Your brokerage structure must support the type of business you are conducting. Lease versus sales activity reporting. Another critical component of the BAD is distinguishing between lease activity and sales activity. Many brokers underestimate lease transactions, assuming they carry less risk. In reality, lease transactions, especially property management and commercial leases, can present significant compliance issues. Under ARS, paragraph 32-2173 and paragraph 32-2174, brokers handling property management must follow strict rules regarding trust accounts, record keeping, and handling of tenant funds. A brokerage heavily involved in leasing activity must have systems in place to track security deposits, rental income, and management agreements. For example, a Phoenix brokerage managing 100 rental properties has ongoing financial and fiduciary responsibilities that far exceed a simple sales transaction. If those funds are mishandled, the broker could face serious disciplinary action. ADRA will look closely at lease-heavy brokerages because of the increased risk associated with trust account violations. The importance of production tracking for audit readiness. Production tracking is not just about measuring success. It is about proving compliance. Every transaction must be documented, stored, and accessible in accordance with ARS, paragraph 32-2151.01, which requires brokers to maintain records for a minimum of 5 years. A well-run brokerage should be able to answer the following questions instantly. How many transactions have we closed this year? How many are residential versus commercial? How many are leases versus sales? Where are the files stored? Are all documents complete and signed? If a broker cannot answer these questions, they are not audit ready. Consider a real-world example in Chandler. A brokerage completes 120 transactions in a year, but fails to properly upload 20% of the files into their transaction management system within the required time frame. During an ADRA audit, missing or incomplete files could result in violations, even if the transactions themselves were legitimate. This is why many brokerages implement stricter internal policies, such as requiring document uploads within 72 hours, to stay ahead of ADRA requirements. How ADRA uses volume to assess risk. ADRA is not random in its audits. Transaction volume is one of the key indicators used to assess risk. A high-volume brokerage with rapid growth may signal potential supervision issues. Conversely, a brokerage with very low activity may raise concerns about license misuse or inactivity. This aligns with ARS, paragraph 32-2153, which gives ADRA the authority to investigate brokers for failure to supervise, improper record keeping, or engaging in dishonest practices. Volume helps Adri prioritize where those investigations may be necessary. For example, a rapidly expanding team in Scottsdale closing 300 transactions annually may trigger closer scrutiny, especially if the broker does not have clear policies, training systems, and oversight mechanisms in place. Audrey wants to see that as volume increases, supervision increases as well. This ties everything together. Your brokerage structure, Section 1.2, must support your transaction volume, Section 1.3. If it does not, compliance failures are almost inevitable. Bringing it all together. As we move forward, remember that transaction activity is where compliance becomes real. Licensing, structure, and setup mean nothing if the day-to-day operations are not properly managed. The broker audit declaration is designed to capture this reality, what your brokerage actually does, not just what it claims to do. In the next section, we will take this one step further by examining how brokers manage trust accounts and client funds, one of the highest risk areas in real estate compliance. Online discussion. Why does Adri view high transaction volume as a potential risk factor for brokerages? Answer. High transaction volume increases the likelihood of supervision breakdowns, incomplete documentation, and compliance errors. Adri uses volume as an indicator to determine whether a broker has adequate systems and oversight in place to manage the activity responsibly. How does leasing activity create different compliance risks compared to sales transactions? Answer. Leasing activity, especially property management, involves handling client funds such as security deposits and rent, which must be managed through trust accounts under strict regulations. This creates higher fiduciary and record-keeping risks compared to standard sales transactions. Why is production tracking essential for audit readiness? Answer. Production tracking ensures that all transactions are properly documented, organized, and accessible. Without accurate tracking, a broker cannot demonstrate compliance with record-keeping laws, increasing the risk of violations during an audit.